Hello, it's Colin Larkin here again, coming to you from Christ the King in Topeka. Today is Wednesday of the 12th week in Ordinary Time, and this is going to be another gospel reflection on today's reading, which comes from the Gospel of Matthew from the 7th chapter. Jesus said to his disciples, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but underneath are ravenous wolves. By their fruits you will know them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Just so every good tree bears good fruit, and a rotten tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a rotten tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. So by their fruits you will know them." So this gospel reading was very applicable in the first few years of the church, and continues to be so even today. We see from honestly the very foundations of the church, it immediately came under persecution, immediately by the Jews, who were spreading the lies that those who would convert to Christianity had to first obey the Mosaic law, circumcision, all of the different dietary restrictions and stuff like that. And then just as the church progressed, just tons of heresies. As one would end, another one would pick up right where it left off. And we can see how true these words would have been for the disciples, of how there were all of these people coming in sheep's clothing that were actually ravenous wolves. They proclaimed Christ, allegedly, but yet they were not proclaiming the true Christ. And ultimately, they had their own interests in mind rather than the truth, and rather than the interests of all the Christians. And this passage reminds me of a very interesting line that Archbishop Fulton Sheen said once. He was describing the Antichrist when he comes. He will come like this, in sheep's clothing. He says that the Antichrist will come performing great miracles. He will be preaching love and peace and justice. He will heal the sick. He will raise the dead. But the way that you will know him is that he will not have the wounds in his hands. Even if you look in various artwork, pieces of art, sometimes the Antichrist is portrayed as just that. He's portrayed as Jesus, but yet his palms are intact. He has not suffered. He has not sacrificed. And so we know that in the writings of Paul, he lists off fruits of the Spirit that we should be on the lookout for. Peace, joy, patience, kindness, self-control, gentleness. But I think that above all, one of the true markers of a disciple of Christ is sacrificial love. That is the height of the Christian life. That is what the Lord calls us to do ultimately. No greater love hath man than to lay down his life for his friends, than to suffer and sacrifice for those whom he loves. Those wolves in sheep's clothing, they refuse to do so. All they want to do is take, all they want to do is devour. They want what is good for themselves, and they want to leave nothing for those who are following them. And so we just need to keep this in mind, particularly in today's world. There's a lot of gray out there. It seems like nothing is black and white. It seems like truth is very hard to discern anymore. But we just need to really take a discerning spirit. St. Ignatius of Loyola, if you're familiar with him, he wrote rules for discernment of these kind of step-by-step ways you can know that the Lord is talking to you, or whether or not it's the enemy. The devil often appears as an angel of light, and same kind of thing. He will say good things that seem good. He will say things that seem impressive, but ultimately he will be trying to lead you further away from the Lord. And so there's so much confusion out there, particularly with all the different denominations of Christians. It can be really tough just to kind of discern what is from the Lord and what is not. And these fruits of the Spirit are a great way to do that. If you notice that the person who is preaching has these qualities, they're peaceful, they're joyful, they're patient, they're kind, then chances are that what they're saying is from the Lord. Even outside of the Catholic Church, which is the fullness of truth, there can still be those who are doing the Lord's work in other ways, other pastors and people from other denominations. If they're being honest with themselves, and if they're truly trying to follow Christ as best as they can definitely do the Lord's work. And the church always has had a great history of taking things from outside of the church, removing what is good, and then applying that to our lives as well. And so we just need to keep this in mind, brothers and sisters, that, not everyone who comes proclaiming good tidings is from the Lord, but to ultimately just trust that the Lord will not let us be led astray so long as, once again, we keep our eyes on him and we stay faithful to his church, faithful to his commandments. Hey guys, just one last point. If you're interested in learning more about the Ignatian Rules for Discernment, I would highly suggest that you check out the books that are written by Father Timothy Gallagher, OMV. He's a priest that works with us out at the seminary, and he just does an incredible job of simplifying and applying these rules just to the average day life of the normal Christian. So again, Father Timothy Gallagher, shameless plug for his books. They're great. They've changed my life a lot.